Kawaki just got what every unstable person thinks they need right before things go horribly wrong: more power. The problem is that power has never actually solved any of Kawaki's problems. It just keeps giving him a bigger hammer to swing at them. Somewhere out there, Naruto's probably trapped in another dimension, wondering how his biggest fanboy managed to misunderstand the entire point of Naruto's life, and if Boruto Two Blue Vortex keeps moving in the direction that it currently is, Kawaki might be stepping into the opening chapter of his villain arc. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explain video, where your OBC, your original Boruto chief, takes a look at why Kawaki might very well be headed down the path of Purple Scarf Kawaki, also known as his villain arc. Also, if you haven't already, make sure to check out the chapter review, which is up on the channel and will be linked in the description box and in credits for those of you guys who are curious. Also linked in the description box and in credits is the new video on my Everything One Piece Explained channel, which I strongly recommend if you are a fan of One Piece. So, one of the more interesting things about Kawaki as a character is that people often confuse his intentions with his actions. His intentions, at the end of the day, they are noble. Let me be very clear up front. His intentions are very noble, and there's a good person inside of him. However, his actions are increasingly not. It's part of the contradictions that we as humans have. That's a distinction that the story has been quietly building toward the years, putting it on display for us as readers, at times in a very subtle way, and at other times it just rams you in the face with it. Because if you look at Kawaki's journey from the moment he entered the story, there has always been a battle happening inside of him. Not between good and evil, not between hero and villain, but between the two people that were fathers in Kawaki's life. Everyone remembers that Naruto took Kawaki in. Everybody remembers Naruto feeding Kawaki ramen in that anime-only scene. He was protecting him, giving him a home, showing him what it means to have a true family and father. But people forget something important. Naruto only had Kawaki for a few months to shape him. If we look at what Amado said, it was about 6 months. Jigen had nearly Kawaki's entire life. He was there for several years. And no matter how much Kawaki loves Naruto, the scars that Jigen left behind never actually disappeared. They were beginning to heal, but they never fully went away. They just got buried underneath a healthier environment. Now we're watching those scars resurface, and Kawaki keeps taking the invisible blade to them to reopen the wound, because sadly in life, there are some people who can only function inside of a vortex, or they have to experience some type of pain. Some people don't believe they deserve to be whole. They need pain to suffer, because suffering justifies their low sense of self. Those wounds, they're resurfacing because Kawaki keeps getting stronger. It's the irony. The newest chapter gives us another major piece of evidence towards that. Amado has effectively granted Kawaki access to 100% of Isshiki's offensive power. I want you to think about that for a second. And it's going to piss Naruto and Sasuke fans off, and to that I say, you're stuck in Shippuden, get over it. The same power that once made Naruto and Sasuke look completely helpless because it was a hard counter and he was just that strong, the same power that forced Kurama to sacrifice himself, the same power that nearly ended everything, that power now belongs to Kawaki, mostly. Amado added a catch there. The percentages can be adjusted. 100% offense, and then the next minute it can be 100% defense, or it can be somewhere in between. It's at Amado's discretion. Amado has full control of the settings, which means Kawaki gained immense power while simultaneously becoming more dependent on Amado than ever before. It's like someone being addicted to a drug and then living in an apartment building with that drug dealer. Kawaki is dependent in the same way. That dependency matters, because every single time Kawaki encounters a problem, the solution keeps becoming the same thing: more power. Need to stop Momoshiki and then Code. Well, more power. Need to stop Boruto because he's merged with Momoshiki. More power. Need to stop Jura. More power. Need to protect Naruto. Give me all that power. Every drop of the power. Pump it inside of me. The only answer is always more power. And eventually that mindset becomes dangerous, because power is addictive. And as I've talked about here on the channel, Kawaki has shown aspects of an addictive personality. That is why when they said he was obsessed, I said I can totally see it. Now, I'm not saying he's an addict in a literal sense of like an addict that has to get drugs all the time. I'm not necessarily saying that, even though I use the comparison, but I am saying that with addiction in a traditional sense, you can kind of view Kawaki in the sense that it changes how people solve problems. To use a better example, one thing that one of my mentors said is that money doesn't change people, it just highlights what's already there. So with somebody like Kawaki, when they get a hammer and the hammer becomes big enough, every problem starts looking like a nail that needs to be hammered. Not everything is a nail, but somebody with that big of a hammer just uses it. That's where Kawaki's upbringing really becomes very important. Naruto taught Kawaki compassion. Jigen taught Kawaki survival. Naruto taught Kawaki empathy. Jigen taught Kawaki domination. Naruto taught him that people can change. Jigen taught people that weakness gets punished. Under pressure, people often fall back to what it is they learned first. It's a harsh reality. And that's what we've been seeing with Kawaki, and it has just been growing more and more since Naruto was sealed away. Kawaki isn't becoming obsessed with power because he's evil. He's becoming obsessed with power because the only language his childhood ever taught him. His father beat him. Power. Jigen wanted something from him, he took it. Kara wanted something, they eliminated the obstacles. When strength appeared, it was always used. When weakness was appearing, it was always eliminated. That's the world that Kawaki grew up in. So even though he genuinely loves Naruto, the methods he keeps choosing increasingly resemble Jigen rather than Naruto. And that is the tragedy, because Naruto's legacy was never about power. Naruto became stronger than almost anyone in history. He's been surpassed by people in Two Blue Vortex, but prior to Two Blue Vortex, Naruto was the strongest shinobi ever. But strength was never the point. The point was understanding people. The point was Naruto trying to end cycles. The point was finding solutions beyond violence whenever possible. Look at the villains that Naruto ultimately redeemed. Gaara, Nagato, Obito, eventually Sasuke. Naruto's greatest victories weren't won by Rasengans. They were won through connection. Granted, Naruto used a lot of Rasengans between the moment where he gave them a chance to redeem themselves. They refused, and then he hit them with like 9 million Rasengans, and then he talked to him afterwards, and then he would hit him with 9 million more Rasengans and talk to him afterwards too. Yet with Kawaki, his entire philosophy is moving in the opposite direction. Instead of understanding people, he eliminates threats. Instead of trusting people, he controls outcomes. Instead of protecting freedom, he restricts it. Cue Naruto in the Daikokun dimension. And the scary part is that Kawaki genuinely believes he's doing right by Naruto, but he's not. He's preserving an idea of Naruto that only truly existed in his head. A version of Naruto that is reduced to a single concept. Naruto must be protected at all costs. The actual Naruto would never agree to half the things that Kawaki's done in the name of protecting Naruto. But Kawaki doesn't realize that. And that's why this story is becoming so dangerous. History, real life history, has actually given us a very fascinating parallel here. So I want you to kind of sit down for a second. Alexander the Great. One of the greatest conquerors who ever lived. He was a military genius. He was a legend. He was a man who accomplished what many believe was impossible. And yet, Alexander eventually ran into a problem. There was always another horizon, another territory, another conquest, another victory. The pursuit never ended. The more he achieved, the larger his ambitions became. Because success didn't satisfy the hunger, it just expanded it. Power works the same way. You don't reach a point where you suddenly say, this is enough. Let me focus on what I have. Instead, new fears appear, new threats to that power you have, new justifications, they emerge. And that's exactly where Kawaki's headed. Today is protecting Naruto from Jura. Tomorrow, who knows? The target always changes. But the thing with Kawaki is that his obsession always remains. And that's why I think Kawaki's latest upgrade from Amado won't be his last one, because Kawaki fundamentally believes safety can be achieved only through strength. The problem is that absolute safety doesn't exist in this world. There will always be another threat. There will always be another enemy. There will always be another risk, which means there will always be another reason to seek more power. And eventually those reasons start sounding less like protection and more like control. That's where the villain arc begins. Not with evil intentions, with noble intentions that were taken too far. What's brilliant about the manga is how slowly it's been building towards this. A lesser story would have turned Kawaki evil overnight. A lesser story would have had him wake up one minute and say, okay, time to be the bad guy. Instead, every step feels understandable. Every step feels logical. Every step feels justified. If you look from Kawaki's lens, it feels justified, until you suddenly look back and realize how far he's traveled off the road. That's exactly how real moral decline works. Nobody wakes up one day and decides to be a villain. It's a bunch of tiny 1,000 decisions that are made that are super small that you say, well, it won't matter if I do this much, if I take a little bit here, a little bit there. Eventually it adds up and you cross the line. People convince themselves what I'm doing is the right thing. One compromise at a time, one exception at a time, one cross line at a time. And eventually those exceptions, they become who they are. Kawaki has been walking that road for years now. What's interesting very much about Kawaki is that he currently occupies a strange space within the story. He's an antagonist, but he's not quite a villain. If you call him a villain, you're not necessarily right. Those aren't the same thing. The antagonist opposes the protagonist. A villain represents a moral corruption. Right now, they have a truce, but he opposes him. The story still has room for redemption. The story still leaves room for understanding. The story still leaves room to pull him back from that dark edge. However, that window, it won't stay open forever, because eventually this Shinju conflict's gonna end. We're getting close to it. Eventually, Juro will be defeated, probably within the next year or two of this manga run. I don't think Juro makes it to next fall, to be honest. Not this upcoming fall, but fall 2027. I don't think that he makes it that far. Eventually, that temporary alliance with Boruto will no longer be necessary. And when that happens, Kawaki and Boruto are going to have to confront the very thing that they've been avoiding, each other. Not as allies, not as reluctant partners, but as two people with fundamentally different visions on how to save the world. Boruto believes that people can choose better paths. Kawaki believes dangerous people must be stopped before they can act. Boruto inherited Naruto's ideals. Kawaki wants Naruto's love. Those are not the same thing. One is an inherited philosophy. One is an obsession towards an attachment. The difference is becoming more important with every single chapter, because love without understanding is obsession. That is why when they said Kawaki's obsessed with Naruto and people got so triggered, I'm like, the story's right. I don't think you truly understand what obsession means in this instance. Let me repeat that line. Love without understanding becomes obsession. Love without understanding becomes obsession. That is what happened with Kawaki and Naruto. An obsession without limits can become something darker. And I think that's where it's leading us towards that end game. I don't think Kawaki ends the story as a villain. I don't think Kawaki's story is a villain story where he ends up as one. I think it ends up being a tragedy where he gets healed. Because at its core, Naruto as a franchise has opened the door about saving people. Some people can't be saved. But for every person that has to be killed off, there are people like Sasuke that get a chance to redeem themselves. And I do think that ultimately Kawaki is going to be saved by Boruto. But before that can happen, Kawaki may need to fall even further than he already has. He may need to fully cross lines that he's been dancing around for years. He may need to become the very thing that Naruto himself would have opposed. He may need to do that before he can ever see Naruto again. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, click here on the left, check out the chapter review, or click here on the other side to check out that Everything One Piece Explained video that I was talking about earlier.